Good evening. Welcome everyone to our special Thursday night edition of the Selectmen's meeting. We had been going to meet this last Thursday, but we did have it postponed because of the snow and stuff. So today is Thursday, December 19th. Announcement that this meeting is being recorded. We want to take a moment in appreciation for our brave servicemen and women who are serving in Afghanistan. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just add to that? This week we had 6 of the servicemen that died in a helicopter in Afghanistan.
That's right, yeah.
We also had a 19-year-old Fairhaven boy, which I believe is the 45th here from Massachusetts. Okay. So if we can keep them in our thoughts as well.
I think it's very good. Thank you. Good. And we've got Selectman Peterson will be joining us momentarily. He's hung up in traffic, as most everyone else has been dealing with tonight too, with the holiday season and stuff like that. So Pete will join us momentarily. We'll go through some housekeeping things, and then we'll he can catch up with us. Just an announcement too: transfer station for the holiday hours. It is closed Wednesday, December 25th, Christmas Day, but it will be open the next day, Thursday, unusual Thursday, December 26th, Friday, December 27th, and Saturday, December 28th. So the 3 days right after Christmas, the dump will be open. And also it'll be closed for Wednesday, January 1st, for New Year's Day, but will be open Thursday the 2nd, Friday the 3rd, and Saturday the 4th. So once again, the 3 days right after the New Year's too, for people to clear out all their boxes and wrappings and everything else that goes along with this time of year for the Christmas season.
Hopefully, after all the traffic, that'll be one less line they have to stand in.
I know. It's
3 days in a row.
Yeah.
It can be tough right after Christmas with the lines at the transfer station. It gets pretty long.
Michael, do you think we should wait on some of these votes until Pete gets here and maybe knock off other things, or what's your thought?
I think as long as you have a majority of the board, if you want to
Okay, so we'll just kind of plug along with these, and then most of them are very just kind of straightforward anyways. We've got a vote here to sign the January 7th, 2014 warrant for a special state election, which is going to be only for precincts 3 and 4, the south side of town. So do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we sign the warrant for the special election, which we held on January the 7th, for precincts 3 and precincts 4.
I'll second that. And all in favor?
Aye.
And that's to fill the representative seat vacated by Daniel Winslow. So
it's interesting. There's an independent, a Republican, and a Democrat that are running, but because it's in January and around the holiday season, there's been like zero attention with that, and hopefully, I think because it's going to be on, January the 7th, people really are going to have to remember that. I think you're going to get a very low turnout unless I haven't seen a lot of campaigning.
No press or nothing on.
It's
an odd, and just odd dates and time. Everything's completely
right
odd about
after
it.
New Year's.
it'll probably be a last-minute crush, right after New Year's, because it's tough getting people interested around the holidays. They get too busy with their family activities. So.
Next, we've got a vote that we need to take to authorize Town Administrator Michael Sullivan to sign the MIIA 2-year guarantee proposal for property and liability and workmen's compensation programs. And
we've been with MIIA for probably 30 years now, and we get all kinds of credits from it. It's been really turned out to be a very beneficial program for the town. We get our property and casualty, our auto fleet, our workers' comp through them. And we also now get our health insurance through them with Blue Cross Blue Shield program. So I would recommend that you sign the 2-year rate guarantees.
All righty, good. So you'd like to make that
I make
motion?
a motion that we authorize our town administrator, Mike Sullivan, to sign the MIIA 2-year guarantee proposal for property and liability and workmen's comp programs.
I'll second that. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next, we've got a vote to sign an agreement with Environmental Partners Group for the replacement of the public water supply storage tank at the former state hospital site. So these are the folks that are doing, I guess, the engineering, right? The preliminary
engineering and design.
Study.
You authorized me to sign on the board's behalf at the last meeting, but when the contract came through, they had place for 3 signatures, so you were meeting this week, so there was no rush on it, so I said, may as well have you people sign. I believe there are 5 copies that need to be signed.
And this was okay through the Water Sewerage Board?
The chairman's already signed, Chairman of Water and Sewer's already signed it on their behalf.
Right. And the total, it looks like for their fee, which we've already agreed to anyways, is $117,500.
Right.
And that's great.
I believe we appropriated $150,000 at the town meeting
For this.
in the fall, and that was to, that will provide additional monies for borings, particularly where they have to go near some wetlands and they have to go under the railroad tracks on Hospital Road as well, so.
Great. Okay. So would you like to make a motion, Richard?
I make a motion that the Board of Selectmen sign the Environmental Partners Group, Inc., for the replacement of the public water supply storage tank at the former Medfield State Hospital site.
Good. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Next, we've got the Kingsbury Pond Committee is requesting the Selectmen to vote to appoint Michael Thompson, Paul Trumbour, and Sharon Judge to their committee. And
Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint Mike Thompson, Paul Trumbour, and Sharon
perfect.
Judge to the Kingsbury Pond Committee.
Pete, we were just taking a vote just on the Kingsbury Pond Committee, is asking us to vote to appoint 3 new folks to their committee, and
Yep.
stuff like that, so, and
I
use.
motion this. You want a second? It's Mike Thompson, Paul Trumbour, and Sharon Judge.
Great, good, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
For that?
Yep.
Aye, good. Yeah, and then we had just taken a vote to, just on the environmental agreement, you know what I mean, just for the selectmen to sign for the water tower, which was on the agenda and stuff like that.
Okay.
Michael had said that we had authorized him previously, but when the contracts came through, it also had our names on it too, so we've got everyone in the town sign this, right? We got Mark's on here, Joy's on here, my God, I'm gonna.
If you go down for signing that, you'll go to, you have lots of company.
I know, yeah, the Water and Sewer Board, right, all signed on it too, so it's everything.
Water, sewer board, town council, town accountant, so they're all on the hook, so.
Just the next thing on the agenda was just talking about that Michael put on just about the town plowing, the former Lord's parking lot, as the owner refuses to plow.
Yeah, the way that reads, it says town to plow. It's up to you people how you want to handle that. I spoke to the owner of the property. He absolutely refused to plow it, said he doesn't have a tenant, and until he gets a tenant. And I said, well, what about Roach Brothers? And he said, well, they're not paying rent yet, and until I get some rent, I won't plow.
Yeah.
So I said, well, what are you doing for next door? Because he's also the owner of the Starbucks property. He said, well, I plow that, but that's part of a maintenance agreement, and they pay me for that. I said, well, can't you have the plow go over and plow that? He said, it will cost me money. I said, what do you think it costs the town?
Yeah.
So, the library director asked that the town plow. Now, it's kind of strange. After the last storm, people said, well, how come they plowed the back parking lot, but they didn't plow a path into it?
Yeah.
My understanding is that when the Kellys owned it, they did not want the town equipment to plow a path to the back parking lot because the windrows block the parking spaces in the rest of the parking lot. So they said you can plow the back parking lot, but don't plow a path to it. And the guy that was plowing for the first storm,
Yeah.
that was what he had been doing, so he just went in and plowed the back parking lot.
What
and
he's
that's
always been used to doing
yeah.
in the past and stuff like that.
I asked town council, because the library director thought the agreement with the Kellys was still in effect, and he said no, that was an agreement. It's not binding on the new owners of the property. When the property was sold, that agreement expired, and there's nothing covering that. Mr. Salvatore said that he's willing to sign anything and do anything. I said, well, how about why don't you plow the lot?
It would just be the simplest thing.
He wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So he thinks we should be very grateful for all the wonderful things he's brought to town, and we are. But, it's his property, and he really should be responsible for plowing it.
Well, the concern I have, and even before the snowstorm, we had some ice. I had a call from a resident in town, was concerned just that it wasn't sanded, that they were slipping on, and this is the getting into the former Lord section, to get to the parking lot. It's important, though, I think, that the back lot be open, because if that whole lot was closed off, people would not have a place to park to go to the library. So I think there's great benefit for use of the library if we lost that whole lot. But if he just left that open, and the lod's part, and there's an accident that happened, or somebody fell, is he responsible?
I mentioned that to him, and I said, you know, if somebody's crossing that lot to get to the library or whatever, the barber shop or whatever, and they slip, you could be sued. He said, I have good insurance.
Because, I mean, that parking lot is used a lot. It's used by the
Sure.
daycare
Yeah.
folks.
Yes.
It's used by
Yeah.
others that have just, because Lodge has been vacant,
Sure.
have gotten used to
If you're
using
using that, sure.
If he isn't going to plow it for his own protection, I would think he would want to block it off, block
But
access, so that you don't
I would hate to
have
see if he
to.
closed that whole thing off. That's
Oh, I know,
my
that would be,
concern.
no.
I did get an email from him, which echoes, it says, after discussion with Mike, I want to make my position clear. While the building remains untenanted, the owners would be willing to grant permission to the town to plow the back part of the parking lot and an access row from South Street. Town council has the license agreement that we could temporarily modify so as to create such permission.
What's your pleasure, gentlemen?
Well, I know, I think, well, we gotta have it open, I mean, you know what I mean, you know, I think it's, yeah, I think we could live with getting plowing an access and having the back parking lot open, I mean, I'm fine with that. You know, I don't know how you feel about that, Pete, and stuff like that.
I think it makes sense to, we're already plowing the back plot area where people are parking, we might as well plow an access to it.
Well, we did the first storm, yeah.
Didn't you say that we were doing that in the past as well, when the Lords were there?
Yeah, we had an agreement with the
Yeah,
with the
so
Kelly family
We're
to
just continuing
do
on
the
with
back
that,
part,
and
yeah.
then I would suggest we just plow
But
an access
I
to
would
it.
think we would have to get some kind of town council agreement. I'm just concerned with that lot is gonna be used.
Right.
And even in the snow, people are gonna be going in and out of, and it needs to be made clear that that's not the town's lot,
Right.
Right,
where the former Lord's area was.
and the back
Fish
part is,
trailing out of there, slipping.
yes, yeah, and the back part is not the town's either. I mean, it's just by agreement that the former owners allowed us to use it, so we should have some sort of written document.
Yeah,
So if in
covering
that
that.
back lot, somebody falls or something happens, is that the town's responsibility since we plowed it?
It depends on what the agreement says, you know, those are the type of things the agreement should cover, whose liability is. And,
yeah.
yeah, Pete, you're probably a little more familiar with that.
It's going to
than-
depend on what your responsibilities are. I mean, the whole area of snow and ice liability has changed dramatically because the SJC came down with a case. It used to be that it was only unnatural accumulations of ice and snow. If you didn't touch natural snow, you didn't have any liability. But once you started, if you directed water onto a walkway or something, then you could create an unnatural accumulation for which you'd be responsible. The SJC did away with all of that about a year ago. They decided this case involving, I think it was a Target's parking lot, where they said that you just have a reasonable duty. Someone using the Targets slipped on ice and snow in the parking lot.
sure,
And
yeah.
it wasn't an unnatural accumulation that they could say, and the SJC just changed the rules entirely and said that the landlord just has a reasonable duty.
Yeah.
And that's to be determined in each case. And so that if we take on the responsibility of clearing the ice and snow in that parking lot, then certainly if we do it incorrectly, the town could have some liability. But the town has insurance too for that type of thing.
Yeah.
It would be the same liability that we would perhaps have for the municipal parking lots out
That's true, same thing.
behind the town hall as well.
Yeah, same thing.
Well, is that something in this agreement we could put in that the town would not be liable for?
You could try.
If he'd signed it, I don't know whether they'd sign it or not.
Yeah, I wouldn't sign that if I was the landowner. You're doing the work and I'm going to be liable.
He said he is happy to do anything he needs to do, so.
As long as he doesn't have to sign, yeah. Yeah, no, I know, yeah.
Well, you can try. I mean, you can ask and then, you know,
Yeah, to try, yeah.
if they agree, that's fine. If they don't, then you have to kind of do what you can
All right.
to make it work. I mean, the town does have insurance to cover itself in that sort of instance, so that if there's an injury,
Well, we probably need to add a rider to our insurance policy to cover that, yeah.
you don't think we're covered by that already?
We may, you know, I'm really not sure what the
Assume that-
agreement called for. There may have been.
It's an
may have been
unusual
provided in there.
circumstance where we're
Yeah.
plowing somebody else's property.
See, the library trustees negotiated that agreement with Kelly's, and not that familiar with exactly what's in it.
Yeah.
I'd have to check that and
I
see
bet
what's
it's
in it. yes.
informal.
There is a written document on it, yeah, something in writing, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Does that impact the town's insurance rate if there's a number of suits against the town?
yes, your experience, they modify your rates based on your experience.
So if there were a number of accidents that happened there and the town was sued, then our rates in the town would go up?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, so we'd like to have the parking lot plowed, right? And we'd like to have access plowed. And so I guess try to get some type of an agreement with him about that. And
That's
what I would
see what we
suggest,
can
yeah.
do.
I'll
Yeah.
call Mark tomorrow
And
and
see
see
what
if
we can do.
get a hold of
Yeah,
Salvatore.
yeah.
So-
And then with a little bit of luck, maybe we won't have a lot of snow this year until, or at least until Roach Brothers signs a lease, and then we'd be all set. Right? Yeah.
Yes, because I don't think that the Roach Brothers wants to continue the agreement. I mean, they don't mind if people park there temporarily while they're using the library, but they don't want people parking there
Yeah, it won't be
all day
designated
basis,
library
yeah.
parking.
Okay.
So
But
I would
mean,
assume
they
they'd be-
have full responsibility for plowing that, but they
I
also
would assume
said
so,
that
yeah.
if people want to use that lot and use the library, they have no issue. It's if the library director parked there all day was the
Right,
issue.
that would be
Right.
issue, right, yeah, that makes sense.
And they also have indicated their intention to have their employees park in this back lot across the street here, so they do have some, the lot behind Master's Touch, the Allen Building, Master's Touch,
Okay.
which, by the way, is for sale, I understand, that building. So,
Oh, yeah, Master's Touch is moving
Mhm.
in February, I think it is.
yes, yeah. I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, whether they were moving because the building was being sold or whether they're
Yeah,
moving and that's why the building is being sold, I'm not sure.
Oh, I bet they moved first, would be my guess, but
yeah, good. All right, so we'll see
You
what
want
best
a
we can do.
motion or something on that?
I guess, yeah, that's fine, yeah.
I would move that the town plow the former Lord's parking lot in order to create
Just,
access for the,
just the rear
Library
portion, the rear lot.
Yeah,
well, I would leave that up to the discretion of the DPW as to what they think makes the most sense.
Well, to them, it would make the most sense not to plow it, but they'll do what you ask them to do. So if you want, we'll plow a path. My recommendation would be, if you're going to do it, you plow a path into the back park lot, plow
Okay.
the back park lot, because that's what people have been used to using.
okay,
So,
good.
Although it's closer, if you park next to the gazebo, it's actually closer to the library. I mean, Lord's didn't want people parking there because
Yes.
that's where they wanted the
Yeah.
Lord's customers to park, so.
on the other
but I
hand,
just-
we do have school parking lots and town hall parking lots and the library parking lot. They do have, plus sidewalks for schools, so it gets to be a,
Don't want to create too much of a burden for them and stuff like that.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think we need the whole
The whole
place
parking
for the lot, yeah. I think that back parking lot is sufficient for people,
I
and,
think that Lord's is going to get their permitting quite soon, and I would assume that once they get permitted, they would start paying rent, because they need to be doing their build-out then,
And it would have to be plowed, right?
and they
For the-
would then
so-
want to plow it.
So a little bit of luck, it will be hopefully a non-issue relatively soon.
It would be a short term.
and it may be when they're doing construction, that lot's gonna be blocked off because of the construction.
That's
So
true,
I would
too.
think that probably,
happen.
may end up being blocked off anyway,
Yeah,
so.
from time to time.
We'll
just
see.
with a little bit, yeah.
So just to
Okay.
confirm, the motion to plow the access through and the library lot
Yes.
and authorize Mark to negotiate the agreement.
Yes, that'd be good,
Yep.
yeah, okay. So you have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Good, good. So we need to take a vote to open the 2014 annual town meeting warrant.
Yes, everyone remembered this morning that needs to be on there to open the warrant.
Okay.
It closes usually the last week in January.
January, okay.
Your last meeting in January.
Okay.
So
Pete, would you-
moved.
Okay, so moved, yeah.
Second.
I
All in
have
favor?
put,
Aye?
yes,
Yeah.
Aye.
I put together a list of articles that I thought will probably go on. A lot of them are routine articles, a lot of others that have been talked about during the year, so I'll email that out to each of you so you can take a look at it. And if you want anything added to that list, just let me know and I'll
Okay.
add it on.
I've got one, I'll show it to you later in the meeting,
Oh, okay,
already.
good,
Man,
good.
All right. Next up, we've got is to vote to approve the November 19th and the November 26th meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I was just gonna look and see if I had any issues. You guys were too fast. Nope. I'm good with
You're all right with both of them?
Yeah, with the way they are, yep.
Okay, all right, okay. Licenses and permits. New in town, Medfield requests a one-day wine and malt beverage permit for the January 6, 2014 event to be held at the center.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Medfield State Hospital, looks like we need to sign a vote, we need a vote to sign a memorandum of agreement between DCAM and the Massachusetts Historical Commission regarding building number 31, the farm dormitory at the Medfield State Hospital.
Most commonly known as the Odyssey House.
Yes,
And the Historic District Commission has signed the memorandum, as well as the local historic.
okay,
And right now, if all goes well with the weather, they're looking at possibly February, early March for the demolition.
beautiful, huh?
Great.
Can't happen sooner
Great.
enough.
I know.
All right.
Yeah, it gives me great pleasure to
So,
move that we vote to sign that memorandum to get rid of the Odyssey House.
yeah,
I will second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, okay, looks like it just takes one signature, I guess, so I'll just sign this. That's good.
Just a couple other things under the state hospital update.
Yep.
Our quarterly meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, but due to the storm, we had to postpone that. We don't have a new date, but we're gonna try to make it as early January as possible, so too much time doesn't go between meetings. John Thompson couldn't be here tonight, but he's asked me to hand this out to you. This is just an update that he was gonna present this evening on the state hospital. So, he would really like the chance to go over it with you, so I told him I would give it to you, you could review it, and then he can present it at the next meeting.
Okay, great.
But it's just an update as to what's happened with the settlement agreement.
Okay.
Since we finished that in July.
All right, good, so we'll take care of that in January then, and it'll be good, because we'll have had a chance to read it for
No, you're more than
No,
welcome,
no,
yes, yes.
He'll
You're
be-
always welcome.
John.
You're always welcome.
yeah.
So he'll be in for your first January meeting.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll have our quarterly meeting around the same time, so if there's any other updates, he can provide that as well.
Good, okay. Selectmen's report, Pete, you're up.
I've been to a couple of meetings of the State Hospital Advisory Committee. They're actually meeting right now, while we're meeting, with their visioning consultant, who's going to, I think it's January 10 or 11, when they're
Whatever
doing.
that Saturday is.
The 11th, is it?
January
Chris?
11th.
And they're meeting with the consultant to work through the plans for that visioning meeting. And everybody in town is invited to come to that, and I hope that people that are interested in sharing their ideas about the hospital and its reuse would attend and get their ideas out for everybody to consider. I did my office hours at the center, first Friday of every month I'm there. Let's see what else happened. The parade was a neat event. Richard and I had a march together. Nice.
It was nice, and it was okay, that was a nice day.
It was a nice day, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't too, yeah.
And,
It was nice.
Yeah, it wasn't raining or
The night
snowing.
before was,
A little messy, but, you
A
know.
lot of the Girl Scouts seemed to quit at the Needham Bank, but that was okay. And there seemed, Memo seemed to have extra floats this year. They seemed to have different businesses that had floats, so that was nice to see as well. The next day was the Angel Run, which was a huge success this year for Medfield Foundation. It took that over 2 years ago and is running it as a fundraiser to raise money for Medfield families that are in need. And the good news is that there was almost 1,100 runners that registered for the Angel Run.
A lot of people.
There was a record amounts of corporate sponsorship this year. Especially Needham Bank stepped up very large. Needham Bank has been running a program that anybody from Medfield that opens a bank account at Needham Bank, and it started in July, actually, that they were giving $100 to the Angel Run. And they've given, well, they paid a lump sum to be a sponsor, but they've I think the new accounts have generated somewhere like $8,000 for the Angel Run.
Pete, I know they changed on the funding. That where do the funds now go?
The funds go to benefit Medfield families in need. The Angel Run was originally started as a way of celebrating the life of Natasha Domachek, and who was a third grader who died, unfortunately. And Natasha would have graduated in the class of 2012. Yeah. And so that when Natasha's class graduated, the original concept was that there would be a scholarship for that class. The reality was that the Angel Run was so successful, and it was such a great event, that the Angel Run generated enough money to both fund the scholarship, and the scholarship that was, there were 8 scholarships that were awarded in 2012. There were 2 scholarships that were each $20,000. They were huge scholarships. And there were 6 others that were, I think, $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 each, smaller ones. But in addition to providing for those scholarships, the Domacheks and the Angel Run, when they discovered that they were making more money than they needed for the scholarships, they have been funding for years a system through the Medfield Foundation to provide monies for Medfield families that are in need. And when you talk to the people that deal with the Medfield families that have financial exigencies in their lives, which is primarily here at Town Hall, is the Medfield Youth Outreach Workers who administer the fuel assistance and get to know the people that way. And we had Don Alcott come in and actually talk to the Medfield Foundation board a couple months ago about where the money was going to be going to now. And in the past, the excess monies went to the United Church of Christ. They have some sort of parish fund, and between the UCC, Pastor Phil Bauman, and the Medfield Youth Outreach Office, they figure out where the money should go to. Mm-hmm. And I think it's primarily youth outreach that is making the determinations, but they have a very nice way of working together and checking each other. And last year, the first year that the Medfield Foundation took over the running of the Angel Run, we determined that we needed to take some of the monies to run the Medfield Foundation to make sure that it was financially solvent. Medfield Foundation is totally volunteer run, but it still does have some costs for accounting and some things of that sort. We charge 1% of whatever is taken in by the different funds is kept as a way of funding the operating of the Medfield Foundation. Some of the money, it was I think around $4,000 from the Angel Run last year, was kept by the Medfield Foundation for operating expenses. And then a substantial amount was given to the UCC to be administered for Medfield families in need, along with the Medfield Youth Outreach Worker. This year, because there are more people that ran, and because the corporate funding sponsorship was that much higher than it had been in the past, there's going to be much more money to go to Medfield families in need. The thing that I would share, I guess, that I learned from listening to Don Alcott come and talk about, not telling us who people were and that sort of thing, but giving us a composite sort of idea of some of these people in need, is that there are people in Medfield that are going to bed hungry, and that there is a real need in town, and that because of the fact that the food cupboard has to meet federal income guidelines, apparently if you work and are still poor, you can't get your food from the Medfield food cupboard, and so that there are people that are actually working who are hungry in town, and so that the Angel Run monies are going to go to the UCC Church and the Medfield Youth Outreach to be administered to aid these families in town that are hungry and have other exigent needs.
That's excellent.
And let's see, I went to a Medfield Foundation meeting as well, and it was mainly an unwrapping of the Angel Run happening. The Volunteer of the Year program that the Medfield Foundation runs is underway, and I would mention to people that they have until the end of January to make a nomination. If you know of an extraordinary volunteer in Medfield who's doing remarkable things, please suggest them for recognition. The forms for that can be found at the Medfield Foundation website, which is medfieldfoundation.org. Medfield Cares About Prevention had a very interesting meeting, and we're very fortunate to have a resident in town, Carol Reed, who actually works in this whole field over in Needham. She's the sort of the substance abuse person, paid staff person provided by that federal grant that we were seeking, and Carol brought me all of the materials at the meeting that we had about what they're doing in Needham, so that there's a youth substance abuse prevention brochure that they have. This is something from SAMHSA, which is a national organization, but it's underage drinking prevention national media campaign. What you can do to prevent your child from drinking alcohol. And when you read the statistics that I'm learning about this as a result of being part of this MCAP committee, is that it's dramatic relationship between the age that a child might start drinking and their later substance abuse problems. The earlier they start drinking alcohol, the more likely it is that they're going to have substance abuse problems later in their life. And it's just such a clear relationship. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the adolescent brain doesn't really develop until the mid-20s, apparently. And that the alcohol has just a very different effect on the adolescent brain than it does on the adult brain. I guess the message is that there are just a lot of assistance out there. This is another from the National Institute of Mental Health, the teenage brain still under construction. That's that issue of not fully formed until it's 25. This is again from SAMHSA, which is former Congressman Patrick Kennedy's organization about trying to have a rational policy for marijuana use. And they're also, I guess, dealing with, no, I'm sorry, SAMHSA that's the federal agency that gives the grants that we were seeking, the $625,000 grant. So this is Real Kids Are Curious About Alcohol. 40% will try it by 8th grade. It's a family guide to underage drinking prevention. I mean, it gets into very thoughtful sorts of things that a lot of us don't think of, which is, maybe alcohol should be under lock and key in our houses, because a lot of the kids get their alcohol from their parents' homes. Here's some material from the Needham coalition that Carol runs, and it has to do with the issue of their survey that they've done. We did a similar survey here in Medfield that the MCAP people will be rolling out in a while. And then the one thing that I got, Mike, that I was going to bring up with you that you mentioned for the
town meeting
is Carol gave me a copy of the bylaw that they passed in Needham, which is, it's like a public alcohol drinking in public bylaw, but it's for marijuana use. And I guess the towns can, if they choose to, can have a bylaw that prohibits public consumption of marijuana. And it just basically follows the public consumption of alcohol bylaw to prohibit it in certain places.
Oh, I see.
Certain
Yeah,
public
so it mirrors
places.
that, yeah.
And apparently that is something that is saved under the enabling statute.
Did she say, I know the chief has always talked about the difficulty of getting the courts to enforce some of the local bylaws. Did she indicate whether Needham had any experience with the court system, or is
No.
it a local bylaw that, is it a fine? I assume it's a fine. And
It's written as a
can't do
fine,
criminal,
yeah, yeah.
So it's probably a local option where we would collect the fines locally.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know enough about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But all I have is Needham's one.
I'll
I would
run
leave
it by
up
the
to you
chief
and
and maybe
Mark
he
and
can.
and the chief to
yeah,
figure it out
the
and
chief's
to
meeting
see
and
if,
see
No,
if
that's
they
nice.
have
see if,
That's a good
uh,
idea.
what
That
the
we-
experience.
my colleagues here are interested in presenting that to the town as an option at the town meeting. It struck me as something that made sense to me, that we don't want to see people walking around town with marijuana.
It's interesting, I was watching the national news the other night, and they had a story on about synthetic drugs now that are being made and they're made from legal products. And they were talking about California, the experience California's having with synthetic marijuana,
Yeah.
and how the effects of it are quite different from regular marijuana, and they're having a lot of emergency calls in hospitals.
Well,
From
and that's
people that
what,
are-
apparently a lot of the marijuana that is grown now, that's cultivated, is just exceedingly more potent than the marijuana that was around when we were younger. And it is
Yeah.
just a very different animal. The statistics are equally bad with regard to marijuana use by children as it is with alcohol. That the one that jumps, that I remember is that, well, there are two statistics that I remember reading. One was that I think it's 1 in 6 kids who are regular users of marijuana will have a substance abuse problem that is going to require treatment. That's pretty high. And the other was that there was a substantial, measurable drop in IQ, and it was a big drop. It was, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but if you're a regular user, then you're, as a child, you're very likely to have a lower IQ as a result. And that's the sort of result that I think that we really need to try to protect children against.
The interesting thing was any of the people we met with that wanted to come and talk to the town about hosting a dispensary, marijuana dispensary, they all clearly stated that their opinion, there was no question that recreational use of marijuana would be legalized in Massachusetts within the next 2 to 3 years.
I'm very
No
fearful that that's
question.
happening, that that's going to happen.
They are convinced it will happen.
One of the big problems, I think, with the use of marijuana and alcohol by children is the modeling by their parents. And I know that one of the speakers that came and talked about the substance abuse problems indicated that his daughter was introduced to marijuana by some Needham parent, basically, some TV personality, apparently. And so that,
You see this?
there's certainly plenty of adults that think that marijuana is just
That's
fine.
sure.
And it may be fine for adults, I guess, and it certainly seems to be going that way, but I think that when you see these materials about the risk factors for children and the marijuana use, I think that we really need to still do something, even if we're headed towards more legal marijuana, as we seem to be, that we still need to do something to protect the children from the use, because otherwise they're more likely to use, and we just statistically know that they're going to have problems that are going to interfere with their lives, which is really unfortunate.
Is the Needham Group a town organization? Is it
It
run
is.
through the schools?
It's a separate organization. It's funded by the SAMHSA
But they're
grant.
appointed by their selectmen, is that, so they're a town committee, or are they under the schools, or do you know?
I think they're probably under the Board of Health.
That would make sense.
I don't think they're under the schools. I think it's a town committee, or it's a town,
Do they work with you like outreach worker, that capacity? Is it under their outreach worker?
I don't think so, no. I think it's probably a separate office, but I mean, Carol is the office, I think. I don't think that there's other staff other than Carol, is my guess. But I think that she's probably under the Board of Health. But I'm not positive of that.
I don't think there are too many towns that have outreach programs, youth outreach programs. I think we're one of the few. or at least to the extent that we have it. Some of them may have one, but
I'm very pleased that we do, and it basically is our town's human service office, basically. They seem to do virtually everything.
Everything, yeah.
In terms of
Sure.
what I would think of as a human service office.
Yeah.
And even though they're spending a huge amount of their time actually doing counseling of people, kids. I had a call
Can I
from,
just follow up while we're still on that
Absolutely.
subject? I apologize for, because you mentioned, I'd make a motion then that we send the sample Article 14 bylaw that you have to the chief of police for his input. Maybe it's the first step.
okay,
yeah, I think that's a good idea, very
Second.
good idea.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
yep.
And then the second question, which Mike had raised, what is the latest? I know we had some inquiries of the marijuana dispensary on West Street and some others, two actual. I noticed in the article in the Globe, it did not list either one of them as a finalist. Is that ended? Is that still out there? Do you know?
Neither one of the sites that was suggested Medfield went on to what they call Phase 2 approvals,
Right.
so.
We're not listed there, so.
Yeah, for now, it depends. I think they're limited to 35 statewide initially, so I guess that means we're not going to be one of the 35. But listening to these people who think it's going to be, hey, you can go to your local drugstore or, local corner convenience store in a few years and buy it for recreational use. I think people need to assume that if it's legalized for recreational use, it's going to be everywhere, including Medfield.
I don't think there's any age limit on the medical use of marijuana in the referendum that we passed. And in these materials somewhere, I noticed when I was reviewing them that there were statistics about the fact that the children in the states where there was medical marijuana were using the other kids' prescriptions to get marijuana.
Yeah.
So I think marijuana is going to be very accessible in this state.
In fact, some people claim that prescription drug use exceeds marijuana and heroin and cocaine now. That's the biggest problem right now is prescription drug abuse.
That's what the
The seminar I went to with the chief that Carol led over in Dedham, that was exactly the point they made, that it is
Yeah.
prescription drugs.
And now with these synthetic drugs that are being manufactured out of legal products, and they said that they think there's at least 200 of them, and probably could be a lot more. And they're developing new ones all the time, so it's just going to be out of control.
The district attorney's office has been very generous with sharing their staff with the Medfield Cares About Prevention Committee. There are 3 members of the district attorney's office that attend those meetings now.
Great.
Jennifer Rowe, who is an attorney, assistant district attorney, who's somehow in charge of this community outreach. There's David Traum, is it? But he's actually a Medfield resident, but he's a PR type person. And then there's some Ryan, somebody else. There's a third person. And that's what they say, is that prescription drug abuse is the major problem of drug use in Norfolk County.
Yeah.
And I think that from the little reading that I've done, it sounds like happens is that you might start on some of those drugs from the medicine cabinet, but then you very quickly end up looking for some heroin
Yeah.
and apparently heroin's very cheap now.
But just because there was a lot of headlines when it first came out that the dispensary was coming in, just so that the residents are clear, then it appears that Medfield is not on the list of this round. It is not being considered, so there's not a site in Medfield that is going to be used for that.
Correct, for the present, yeah.
And we zoned it under our zoning up in the industrial land, so it would have to be up over around
Exactly.
27 or
Right,
Yep.
West Street,
okay.
which is an unlikely place for someone to want to do that, I would think.
Well, it was interesting. One of the groups that came in was looking to put a cultivation center, which meant they were going to grow it inside a building. So an industrial site can be inappropriate if they are going to do it as a cultivation center as
Yeah.
opposed to a dispensary.
That's
So
Well, they were talking about one of the buildings on West Street at the very end, but that did not come about.
Right, and that's what that was going to
that,
be. It was not going to be a dispensary, it was going to be a cultivation center.
And has that ended? I didn't know that had...
It had neither site, the other site didn't meet zoning. It was they were proposing it in a
West Street site
commercial.
is-
West site did meet zoning, but that has not gone on. It was not approved in the Phase 2 approvals, so it's not going anywhere for the present.
Because that one's not a dispensary, but I think a grow...
Cultivation center.
Right.
Apparently, you can split the cultivation, there are 35 licenses, but a license, if you can be split between a dispensary and a cultivation center, you don't have to have them in the same location. You could have the cultivation center.
Forward or not, then?
It is not right now. It has not gone through Phase 2.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Excellent.
I had a call from a fellow who's running for state rep in Medfield, Chris Timson, and he's running. He's a selectman from Walpole. He's running as an independent. I asked him why he was running as an independent. He said, "I've always been unenrolled, so that's what he is." And he's an attorney and a selectman for I think he said around 8 years or something down in Walpole.
there were a couple of high school kids that had interviewed all three of the candidates on Cable 8 or Medfield TV. It's
They
really
did a
good.
nice job, I thought, with that.
They did, yeah.
Listen to the three of them.
Yeah. Because you really have no sense if you don't watch something like that. Who are these people? I don't know who they are. But they gave you a sense of where they were coming from.
I missed that. I'll have to look for that. And the last thing that I had, it was just really a question, Chris, for you, and it has to do with coming out of this conversation with Chris Timpson, because he was offering to, he was asking what he could do to help Medfield, and he mentioned that he had been very involved in getting their affordable housing production plan done down there. And I mentioned to him that we had done a draft of one with Judy Barrett, and that we didn't seem to have done anything further with the draft. And so I was just going to ask if maybe you could update us on where that's going.
The draft is on my desk. I've gone through a first go-around. I met with Sarah today, and Sarah's going to go through it again. She went through it when she first started here, and now that she's got it's actually her anniversary this week that she started here.
Is that right?
Yeah, believe it or not. So
She
we
just
decided
started.
I know. So we decided to have Sarah go through it again now that she's been here for a year.
Oh, good.
And then we're calling an Affordable Housing Committee meeting for the end of January to provide their comments. Once we have those comments incorporated, we'll have a meeting with the planning board for their approval. Then there'll be a meeting with the Board of Selectmen for your approval, and then it'll get sent to the state for statewide approval.
Good. Oh, good, great.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
We're
That's
getting
it.
there.
Okay. Richard?
Several things. I met, I had a call from one of the Girl Scout troops that wanted to meet with me in the capacity as a selectman. We met up here in Town Hall. They're dealing with a community service project that they want to put out trash barrels in different sites, and one of the sites they mentioned was the so-called Pocket Park, and then they wanted to work with Roach Brothers and other businesses that they'll contact individually. We raised a couple questions. The trash barrels themselves are picked up by Park and Rec or our DPW.
Park and Rec for the most
So
part, yeah.
they would have to get a hold of Park and Rec to make sure that we have the capacity, manpower to be picking up additional. I think their goals were very good. And they would do some fundraising to actually purchase the barrels that would be on town property, as long as we can get, as long as Park and Rec has the ability to monitor them. I know Park and Rec is concerned sometimes projects start, and then after that, the burden falls on them to maintain it, and sometimes they don't have the ability to do
Yeah.
that. But
Well, the other problem, it is not so much a problem in Medfield, but it has been in some towns where they have the pay-as-you-throw. People bring their trash
yeah.
from home, and when they go to the
Put it
park,
in the,
put them in the barrels so they don't have to pay for bags at the dump. So,
We've got a few people emptying their trash in the
Our
town
dumpster.
hall dumpster.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I commend them for their community service project, and I'll stay with them with Ken and Park and Rec to see what they have to do. I received an email and then talked to Ken Feeney. I don't know if you got the same email, but the House of Representatives passed what is called House Bill 3588. It's the Community Fire Safety Act, and it passed unanimously. If it becomes a law, the bill would exempt fire hydrants from the reduction of lead in drinking water. And Ken has urged us to contact Senator Warren and Senator Markey so that the fire hydrants can be exempted from the Reduction of Lead in Drinking Water Act that will go into effect on January 4th, which is not a long time from here. I'm wondering if maybe as a board to support that, maybe Mike, on behalf of the board, probably too late to do a letter, whether we could put a call into Senator Markey and Warren's office if this board so chooses.
Sure.
It sounds like if it doesn't, this would cost Medfield and other towns substantial funds.
I think we have something like 1,200 fire hydrants that would, most of which would probably have to be replaced. And, you know, it's not like you drink water out of a fire hydrant, so I think it's probably one. And Ken indicated that it was passed in, I think, in the House by...
It passed the House 384 to nothing.
Yeah, so I think it's probably got a pretty good chance of passing even in a divided Senate if it got that in the House. So.
But maybe just, I'll make a motion then just to support that if we could put a call into Senator Warren and Markey's office, that the Board of Selectmen urges the Senate to follow the House on that.
Excellent.
That's my motion.
Okay, that's fine, yeah.
Second.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
This board had brought up, I think it was Pete, before that there was a pothole right in the intersection of North and Main Street. And I had some concerns of Adams Street between West Street and West Mill Street because of the swale and potholes that are in there. And what I found out from our DPW is it is not the town of Medfield that's responsible for that, but the gas company.
Gas company, right.
Columbia, I believe it's Columbia Gas.
Yep.
And I actually was able to finally get a hold of them, which I spent quite a time on the telephone getting a runaround. But they called back, Mike, I wanted them to come in and appear before this board in a public meeting. And they said they really did not want to come to a public meeting, but they would meet with representatives of the board and the highway department to see if they can work things out. Realistically, they're not going to be able to get that section of Adams Street tarred till the weather gets better, but maybe they can do something with the potholes that are out there. So I think Mike was going to try to set a meeting up in early January.
Yeah.
And so the folks that are on Adams Street, I know they've been concerned because the section of Adams Street from Cottage Street all the way down to West Street, that was retarred. And it's because the gas company put new pipes in there, they dug up the street, and then they didn't return it to the condition that it was. They left this swale and the potholes, and if they're gonna do that work, I think it's their responsibility that they retar the road so that the neighbors that live there can drive their cars without difficulty. So I will follow up on that with the gas company. I also received a list of 101 dogs that have not been registered. This was from our town clerk, Carol Mayer, and she is saying that she has had repeated attempts to try to get them to register the dog. We're talking thousands of dollars, she said. And I think she was looking to this board. It clearly, in the bylaws, that's her job as a town clerk to deal with that. But I think she was looking for this board for some guidance of how she should maybe best proceed to collect the revenue. You know, again, the vast majority of the town pays to have their dog license, and that's not an issue. But she has 101 people here that, after repeated attempts, still she cannot get them to license their dog, so,
And it's a pretty big fine. It's a $100 fine now if you fail to register your dog.
We tried to increase, we did increase the amount of the fine to try
Yes.
to make people comply voluntarily, so that
Once again, my understanding is part of the problem is the county, the courthouse down in Dedham doesn't consider it a big thing, and they say, well, we got real problems, don't bug us with these little minor things. We've got drug addicts and spousal abuse and everything else to deal with. We don't have the time or the staff to deal with that. We thought, there was some suggestion that you could put it on as a lien on the property, but it depends on whose name the dog is in. Is it in the name of the property owner, or is it in the name of their kid, or?
Yeah, at least if it is in the name of the property, at least you get, even if you can't get all of them, you can at least get some of
Yes,
them.
and if it's a tenant, if it's a renter,
Yeah.
how do you can't put a lien
Okay, but
on
at
their
least
property.
You could
so,
get some of them
yeah.
anyways.
Usually, it gets down to about the same 10 or 12 people every year.
Yeah.
well, this list says she has 101, though.
I know, that's what they started. She and Jenny work together and get that way down, but there's usually, there's about, I'd say, 10 to 12 scofflaws who just are consistent. You look at the list every year, and it's, when it boils down to it, it's the same people.
She said some people actually owe
Yeah.
several $1,000s over the years that have accumulated.
And, yeah, those are the scofflaws that are on the list every year. I could almost tell you who they are off the bat. So,
Well, now, so the way she has this list, I would assume then that she would have records that they had a dog at some point with a dog with a license, and then the license did not get renewed. I guess that would be one way, right, that they could get on. Because otherwise, how would you know someone had a dog if they
you
didn't
reported
license
on
it
the
before?
annual census.
yeah, if you fill out the census form.
Called the
but,
census.
yeah.
That would be the only
Right,
other,
if they left it
blank, they wouldn't have that, so,
And sometimes the neighbors will complain, they say,
Oh,
the dog,
yeah.
or if the dog runs loose and the animal control officer
Then you have
picks
a
it up
record.
and it
Okay.
doesn't have a license
Yeah,
on,
okay.
there are different ways that,
I mean, some of these people, their dog might have passed away, and, they might not have the dog
that can be
now.
true. And then I think in some, they don't have to be registered until they're a year old or something, or 6 months old or something like that, I think,
Okay.
so.
All right.
So do we have any
but-
guidance for her of what she should do with these 101 names?
Well, do you want to try the lien thing on some of the people that, if they're the owner of the house?
I think she's
Well, sure, why
tried,
not? Yeah,
they've
why not do
tried
that?
that on. As I said, they do get it down to 10 or 15.
Yeah,
This
I mean, why not?
is just a lot of work on their part chasing them down that she and Jenny have to go through to get the, and we thought, $100 fine would encourage people to make sure they paid up in time, but
So have these people been given a $100 fine?
they will when they register the dog. If they can get them to register the dog, there'll be a $100 fine added onto it.
The way that you'd get them all to pay right off the bat is if you impounded their dog if they didn't pay.
No, some of them would let you keep them and say, fine,
Oh, no.
you keep the dog.
No,
Well, it
people spend
depends.
tons on their animals, and they love them to death, so.
Okay, I attended I was the selectman representative at the hospital vision roundtable that they had with all the other town
Oh,
boards.
sure, yeah.
Which I found was very, very interesting, and almost all town officials were there. I just jotted down a couple of the ideas that came up. Clearly, we heard over and over again the need for over 55 housing
Sure.
in Medfield came up. We heard over and over again the need of affordable housing for seniors.
Yep.
There's many seniors that are on a fixed income, and if they sell their house here in Medfield,
Right.
there's very little options. If they buy something, it's almost the same cost
Exactly.
of the house.
Right, so they have to have something they can rent that's affordable, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that came up a number of times. It was also raised the issue of Medfield being under the 10% for affordable housing concerning State Law 40B. Would this be an opportunity to be able to bring that up to the 10% and then take away that, what I call the blackmail factor that some developers use because they know if they threaten to put in a 40B, the town's very concerned, and then they get away with filling in and doing other things that normally our zoning would not allow. The idea which came across from several, particularly those on Park and Recreation, was the idea of recreational facilities, things like cross-country track, frisbee golf, driving range, and adult recreation areas, as well as youth activity
There's
facilities.
plenty of room for building up there. Building, big building, Park and Rec building, lots of room.
Yeah.
Yeah, big building.
They talked about a conference center, the need of a conference center, and a center for the arts.
Yeah,
And I was talking to Bill Pope, who was envisioning a building that would be all glass up on the hill overlooking the Charles River as you look down.
yeah.
Some people mentioned trying to do some regional things, either a community college or, it was interesting, a regional high school that would offer courses that kids from, Millis, Medway, Dover, Sherburne, Medfield, or a business headquarters of some sort.
Sure.
Others talked about open space, preserving the existing trees, plant, wildlife that was up there. And then another interesting one was co-housing. And that's housing for the baby boomers and Generation X and Y. And then others mentioned some retail, restaurant, office space areas there. There was also a lot of discussion whether the existing building should or could be saved.
Sure.
That was a lot of the discussion. And what are the additional costs? If the town were to purchase the property, what are the additional costs that the town would have to look at? So it was a great discussion, I thought, that came about. I also attended the Aesthetics Committee meeting, and it was held with representatives of Roach Brothers that was there. And in my opinion, we have a window of opportunity. Roach Brothers is looking to open, now they're saying sometime perhaps in June. And Roach Brothers is willing to contribute financially to the rebuilding of the sidewalk that would run from the parking lot on South Street around to the end of the block where the jewelry store is, where the library entrance begins. And we talked a lot about the importance of an improved downtown that just makes economic sense. And it was interesting, in last week's Hometown Weekly, there was an ad for a sale of a home in Medfield, and underneath it mentioned good schools, which you see all the time, but then it mentioned quaint downtown. So that our downtown is a draw. The fact that Roach Brothers would be able to contribute money to a town project I think benefits the entire town. What they're looking at is following what we have on Pound Street. So it would be a 2-foot strip of brick that would run the length. There would be grates. Right now where the trees are, you have 4 trees. There's just holes.
Right.
There would be the grates that would blend right in with the sidewalk. You would have to redo the sidewalk.
Right.
With the cement as well.
Yeah.
And the idea was that if you had one contractor that was both for Roach Brothers and for the town, they could coordinate everything, do it all at once. And so it was left that the Roach Brothers engineer and the town engineer, Roland, would meet and get together and look at issues, particularly dealing with the ADA. There is the ramp at the intersection of South and Main Street, that when that was built, it met ADA code, but the ADA code has changed. So you'd have to do some reconstruction work that was there. Bobby Kennedy, the highway, has a bid, and we'll go back and get an additional bid. The original bid was for 4-foot brick. And a lot of the discussion was that to plow that in the winter, we have to have a special plow that has a rubberized tip when you do the brick. And there's concerns that sometimes in the brick, people could trip, fall, and other such things. So it was agreed to cut that back to 2 feet, so that would not be an issue. So Roach Brothers is going to get back this week as to the amount of money that they are willing to contribute to that. if there was if they are not going to fund the entire thing, if there's additional funds, it would be suggested that we look at what I call borrow from Peter to pay Paul. We can't wait for town meeting because Roach Brothers wants to open in June. They don't want construction going on, while they're trying to open. So we have a window of time. Bobby said it would take about a month to do the work. So you would have April, May, you would have enough time to do that. So we had a town meeting article at our last town meeting of $5,000 to move the Lord sign, which is now not going to happen. So that money is sitting there, and at the next town meeting, I don't know the exact process, but you'd make some kind of a motion at town meeting to
Transfer the funds from,
And
From this list.
if we needed another $5,000, I understand we have about $140,000 in free cash. But I just see it as an opportunity to improve the downtown economically, to get business to come in there, which is going to help on the tax rate. You're going to get a private business that's willing to contribute money towards the public project, which it's going to help Roach Brothers, but it's also going to help the town. We'll wait at our next meeting to come back. By that time, we should have an amount. But then I would guess if there is a transfer, it would have to come from a vote from the Board of Selectmen requesting that additional money go into the sidewalk account of the highway department or some such thing.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is not free cash, it's the reserve fund that the warrant committee has under its disposal. That's about $140,000, I think,
And I think Joy would not be able to authorize the spending of that $5,000 because it's
Right, yeah.
authorized specifically for that
Right, we'd have to wait
project.
till town meeting.
Yeah.
Right, so that's what I meant for borrowing Peter
Okay.
to pay Paul. You'd get it now and then transfer it back
After town meeting.
after town meeting.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think you'd take all the money from the reserve fund transfer.
But
I
I'm
suppose
saying
in-
that-
Yeah.
Then the
Yeah.
5,000 would
Would
go
go
back
back,
into,
Yep.
into the
Yeah.
reserve fund after, if the town meeting so voted that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'd have to, the reserve fund is under the warrant committee's jurisdiction, so you'd have to convince them that
You'd have
it's
to
an,
have a vote of the warrant
They'd
committee.
have to
yeah,
agree to that.
yeah.
Right, I've talked to a couple of the members on that, just to let them know this may be coming down the path.
Good.
But it would take a vote of this board, correct, to,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So as soon as I hear anything, I'll let the board
And I
know.
think our free cash was just certified at around 2.3 million or something like that.
2.6 million, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
even better.
You can spend
Nice
it
going.
out of the reserve fund,
Yeah. I know Gus Murby's very interested in putting some of that money into additional funding for the OPEB liability.
Exactly, right.
So I think
Right,
well,
it's a hard issue.
it's probably a good year to do that, so.
I then attended the planning board meeting. They did approve Roach Brothers' plan, so Roach Brothers continues to go on. When we had the chief of police in, the issue of Upham Road came up. And there was some discussion of, right now you have parking on both sides. Well, in the most recent storm, if you've been down there because of the snowbanks, it's almost impossible for two cars to get past each other that are down there. I wonder if we could either ask the chief to contact Cheryl O'Malley, who is the chair of the Dwight Derby Committee. He was thinking if he only needed about 6 parking spaces of the people that work at the Thomas Upham House.
Yep.
That park, or whether we could have maybe the chief and Cheryl into one of our meetings, just to see if there's some kind of a compromise, rather than going to extreme of making it be one way or something.
Yeah.
If we could remove, I think, about 6 cars on one side of the street. Parking on one side is okay, but it's when you get parking on both sides that makes it very difficult to get down Upham Road there.
I had suggested too, maybe parking behind Park Street Books, because I think that there is parking there that's maybe often
Or
not
that,
used.
yeah.
Right.
Either way.
Yeah. Or the other is CVS. I've never seen that CVS lot anywhere near full.
Well, in the
Oh,
back,
that's
I think
right,
it's true.
yeah.
Yeah, so, and that's right next to,
So there's 3 examples there. Is there a way we can either ask the chief to get would he get a hold of all 3, or ask them to come in, or somehow to just coordinate that, to see if, without taking extreme steps, maybe on a volunteer basis, we can get people to park in one of those 3 lots.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe have the
And
chief
try,
could
yeah.
at least contact the administrator for Thomas Upham, so she could maybe at least give her a couple of
Yeah.
phone numbers there, right?
Well, and I would think some of them may want to have some sort of agreement on it for their own protection, for, in case somebody slipped in the parking lot, fell, that who's liable for the insurance if an employee.
Did Park Street Books say they had a room and were willing to do that, Pete?
Anyway.
No, that was just my guess.
Oh, that was your guess?
Yeah, so I
But
think.
There's spaces out behind the building that I would guess are not used so much.
Well,
Yeah.
certainly there is a CVS.
I guess just if the chief could just at least maybe perhaps have them just contact, get some phone number, then they can see where they go from there. Yeah, you're right, though, because there could be all kinds of agreements they'd have to work out. And I would think perhaps Cheryl with the Dwight Derby House would, have to have her board vote on that
She would,
perhaps and
right.
stuff like that. So, things
and,
could take
and
time.
they might view it as a way of generating some income, either Park Street Books or Dwight Derby, One might say, well, this will give us a little income stream, yeah.
Yeah, that
I
would
think
be
the
great.
management at the Thomas Upham is very responsive. I think they're,
Oh,
it's a
they'd be
good,
great.
it's a good
Oh,
place.
it's very good.
So will you get a hold of the chief then? Okay. And the other thing was our calendar. Will we have at the next meeting a schedule in the calendar?
Yep, New Year's resolution.
Here we go.
Resolution.
Perfect.
And I continue to attend the weekly meetings on the highway garage. They're a little bit, and the last meeting, a little bit behind schedule because of the very cold December that we've had so far, was part of it. Mike, I know it was mentioned, I don't know, you probably have more detail than I, there was an issue with the N-Star Comcast, the telephone pole that went down there, but it seemed to work
yeah,
out
that-
okay as of now.
Yeah, that didn't have anything to do with the town. Comcast has a pole to provide service to their substation or whatever it is. And it was up, and there was 3 transformers on the pole. And there's a question as to somebody from Comcast apparently was digging to attach the wires, underground wires, to the chase up the side of the pole, and while he was doing it, the pole fell. And I guess that's between Comcast and N-Star to determine who's responsible for the pole tipping over, but it was a hazardous waste because the transformers have oil. They don't have PCBs anymore, the newer ones, but they do have some sort of oil, so they had to notify DEP, and they had to get Clean Harbors out, and that's all been handled privately by those parties. Town didn't have anything to do with that. We do have temporary electrical service for both the general contractor and the town now, so that has been an enormous help. And luckily, we've been trying for months to do that, calling all the time, having meetings, and they finally put it in the Friday before the weather got really bitter cold. Yeah, so it's just in the nick of time. So.
But it's very impressive. They have a schedule of each day of the week, what is supposed to be done, whether it's done, it's not done. Everyone goes to that meeting. It's just, and as you mentioned, the volunteer efforts of the building committee of keeping track of all this is just.
Oh, it's amazing how much time they put in. And I know because I have to open the building up for their 7 a.m. meetings. They are dedicated.
And the other thing now, because of that, our highway department, of course, is now outside. And in these recent storms, they have to be given extra credit. They're operating in, sub-freezing weather and snow and everything else to get that out. And we're also getting our gas, because we no longer have our fuel tanks down there at Randy's, at the Irving station. And it was pointed out, some of these storms go all night long, and of course, the gas station's closed. And Randy, I guess, has been very cooperative of opening up early to make sure our plows don't run out of gas, and making sure that there's enough fuel in the tanks there to keep our trucks going.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out. Last year, if you recall, we had a problem right before the first big snowstorm where the guy making the fuel delivery put the diesel in the regular fuel and the regular fuel in the diesel and contaminated 20,000 gallons. And Randy helped us out then by allowing our trucks to fill up there. So that horror show turned out to be a benefit in terms of building the town garage, because they had a system all worked out when it came time to do the town garage, and it was kind of turning sow's ear into a silk purse in terms of a working arrangement on fueling our trucks.
I don't think the
So-
fuel tanks will be able to get into like June or something, right?
Well, they have to have the permanent electrical service to hook up the tanks, because they're dispensed from electronic with cards and all that, and so they won't be able to get the electrical service until at least the buildings are enclosed. So it's probably going to be 3 or 4 months.
I continue to meet once a month, and I just met on Wednesday, yesterday, with the utility folks, NSTAR, Comcast, Verizon, and NSTAR has removed their wires from 100 of the 101 double poles. Comcast has removed their wires from 97 of them. They have 4 with some issues. Their goal was to remove all of them by the first of the year, so they're on track with that. And now what will happen is Verizon will now be able to go into those poles that Comcast has removed, and now begin to remove the Verizon wires, and they've actually, working ahead of schedule, they've already begun to remove some of those wires. And now that they've begun to do that, NSTAR, which has to now come back and actually remove the pole, has actually begun to pull some of the poles out. And I believe they've gotten about 6 of the 27 poles on Bridge Street already taken out. So progress is being made on that. Verizon also said they would be willing, which I raised the issue, their service box on the corner of South Street and Leffler Lane had graffiti all over it, and they've guaranteed me they'll get that graffiti removed. And it was interesting discussing, just in general discussion with NSTAR about the snowstorms, and which I never realized. They said when you lose your power, the more people that call, that determines what areas in town they go to. Now, I don't think I have myself ever called when I've lost power. I just always think, oh, they know it's out, I'm not going to do that. But he said, he wanted to stress, do not think someone else is calling. Call NSTAR. He said, don't call the police department unless there's an emergency.
Right.
Because you're tying the phones up, and the police is not going to be able to get your power turned on quicker. There's actually a phone number, 1-800-592-2000, which is on your bill. And he suggested, which I thought was a good one, is there maybe a way we could put that on our website?
Sure.
And I'll give you the information. And then if hopefully we will not lose power, but if we do lose power, to urge people to call, let them know that power is out. It's kind of the squeaky wheel is going to get the attention on that.
Although he did say one thing is it doesn't do you any good to keep calling. Some people call every hour, and their computer system records the calls at a specific location. So if you call every hour, unless the situation has changed, unless the power's come back for your neighbors and you still don't have it, then you should call. So they'll be aware of that. But calling every hour just ties up the system and doesn't really help matters. So, but the more people that call and the more locations they have, that does help.
He gave an example, I think it was Sudbury he mentioned or something, that there was an area of like 100 houses that were out of power. One person called, and there was another area on the other side of town that only 10 houses were out, but all 10 people called. And they raced over to the area of just the 10, and they got them on, because they figured, well, there's just one house that's out on the other one. So, and then the last thing, Mr. Chairman, is I had mentioned before of trying to get together with some of the selectmen of the surrounding towns, and I did have a meeting with the ones from Dover and Millis concerning updating them in the state hospital. But maybe try a different tactic, and maybe Evelyn could help me. Rather than trying to get the surrounding towns to deal with the issue of regionalization all into one meeting, might be better if they let me get on their agenda. And if she could schedule maybe through January and February a time that I could be on their agenda of the selectmen's meeting, might be easier for me going there than trying to get all of them at once, which I'm finding is impossible, trying to get everybody because of their schedule. And that would be Millis, Medway, Dover, Sherburne, Walpole, Norfolk. And that is all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I think following up on Randy's, the Irving gas station, yeah, I've kind of seen over the years too, that people like to complain a lot over the years, I think with Randy, as far as I think some of their neighbors, the lights or the fence or, all kinds of different things. Anytime seems like anytime he's wanted to work on that station, he's gotten a hard time. And I think it's important for people to understand he's a great citizen. He's really helped out the town quite a bit. Obviously, with the emergency last year with the fuel tanks, and now obviously we've got a place that the truck can fuel up easily here, you know what I mean, until we get our own things online. So he's done well. I don't know, and I buy my gas there. I mean, the station is kept neat and clean. It's, I know they were concerned there were too many cars out front. I mean, they keep it. You can eat off the floor every place there. I mean, it's the cleanest gas station I've ever seen, so.
They even put in street lamps, the old-fashioned lamps to match the ones that are in the center of town.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
so I just, just my personal opinion, but people should really, if they're in, thank him and stuff like that, and just go a little easy sometimes on businesses in town. They are just trying to make a living and get by, and I think he's a good example that, from my opinion anyway, seems to always do the right thing and take care of things very nicely. It runs a great, yes, it's surrounded by houses, but it's always been there as a gas station, so what are you gonna do? That's, it's, pre-existing use, that's the way it goes, if you didn't like a gas station next door, maybe you shouldn't have bought a house next to the gas station type thing. No, I mean, that's just the way things are, so, throw my 2 cents in there, because that's just something that's always kind of bugged me over the years. We always see things come up every once in a while where it seems like he gets a hard time and maybe not deserved. And then just following up, it was, once again, great kicking off the holiday season once again, with the tree lighting on the Friday night. The weather could have been a little better, rainy and stuff and kind of lousy. And once again, the kids did a great job with the Joy to the World singing contest. And obviously, I always thank Hank, Marcel, and everyone else that helps Hank with the lights and stuff like that. The Baxter Park looks great. It's a lot of lights. It's pretty bright there at night, particularly with the snow. I think it reflects off the snow, so it's like you're almost blinded going by.
I really enjoy it. It's so dark this time of year that you go down there and look at it. It sort of takes the sad out of
it
the
does.
season.
I think it really, opens things up. And it looks great, obviously New Hill Grill is nice. They've got their red and green light bulbs turned on for the winter season and stuff outlining their roof. So it's a nice little spot there. And and most of the time the stuff going to the ornament, the things going across the road are working pretty good. One of the snowflakes acts up every once in a while, I notice.
Snow has a way of doing that too.
Yeah. But the other ones seem to be lit most of the time, so it looks nice. So thanks again to Hank. I mean, it would be hard to get done without him doing that and stuff like that. I mean, he puts in all this extra effort, and he loves doing it anyways. But still, it's nice to have folks like that.
Actually, there's a nice crowd there too, I thought.
Yeah, considering it was like a lousy,
Yeah.
And I think it helps now with the kids. The singing contest really brings a lot.
That's
more kids.
such an excellent idea to have that contest.
Yeah, it's a really good idea. I think we would have had more kids too there. It was the same night for they had the dance. I think it might have been the middle and the high school type thing it's not the Christmas dance, but it's
The middle school dance has
middle
always
school
been
dance
that
and
night.
stuff like that. Yeah, it was the same Friday night.
Because the kids, I remember, used to
Wesley's
play
beyond that. He's just looking, but where they all dress up because so I think we lost a lot of kids just because of that night too. Because holiday dance and stuff like that. I'm not sure if that's the one where the girls ask the boys. That might be the one. It might be
The Sadie Hawkins, is that the one?
Yeah, they might do that and stuff like that. Yeah.
You should see some of the clever ways that they get to ask them. It's very creative. They ask them on a cake or frosting.
Oh, is that right?
They have incredible different ways I've seen over the years that they
They'll
do that.
Well, as you're well aware, girls always are much more organized with
They
things
are.
like that, much
They
more
really
creative.
are.
The boys, are usually in a fog most of the time anyway, so they don't really know what the heck's going on.
Even as adults, we
I
are.
agree, it's true, that's true. Men kind of stumble through life, doing stuff, But, so it's good. It's nice to see everything get off to a nice start with the holiday season and stuff. So informational stuff, Michael, anything there that, I know we have a tuition invoice, pretty reasonable, $2,000 a student from the Norfolk.
Yes,
Yeah.
my my understanding of the superintendent, he's not gonna pay it.
Oh. Oh, that's the additional one, right, on top of our assessment,
Top of
right?
our county
Oh, that's
assessment
right.
for
I
the
knew it was too
agricultural
good to be
schools,
true,
so,
that the
yeah.
number was too low, yeah.
Yeah.
Why are they trying to charge an additional amount?
Because they
They
can.
can.
They got some little thing passed in some
Oh, that's
obscure
right,
law
yeah,
that
yeah.
they can charge over and above
Oh,
the
yeah.
tuition amount
Yeah,
for every student from the
Yeah.
town, so.
So
And,
these superintendent's fighting it?
yeah,
Some of them are, yeah.
yeah. So it's
Yeah,
5
I'm
students
happy with
there,
it.
5 students there that they
Yeah,
sent to
so
the
it would be
list, yeah.
$10,000 that
Yeah.
would be assessed over and above what we already pay.
That's right, forgot that, yeah.
What's the basic, how much do we pay per student on it?
Well, it's part of our county assessment. I think and they also get state funds for regional school transportation and for vocational or agricultural school. So I know over the years, the superintendents have been complaining about the cost per student at the vocational agricultural schools is way in excess of the cost per student at the town
Public schools?
public schools. So it's kind of, I don't get into it too much because I figure it's one of these,
I was remembering like 20,000 or something.
that I think they claim it's something like, yeah, up in that category, yeah.
We're at about 13,000 at the Medfield schools.
About, I think it's, yeah, it'd be about that now. Incidentally, the school budget came down today, so I have a copy in there for you
Great.
people, and I haven't really taken a look at it because
Yeah.
it was just dropped off this morning. The other thing is the building committee they have a subcommittee working on the public safety building, and they had a meeting this week with the architects, and unbeknownst to the committee, they brought all of their consultants. There were about 30 people in the room when we got back from the construction meeting down at the town garage. They had plumbing consultants and electrical consultants and HVAC consultants, and but they do have the plans. Chris has some preliminary
Great.
copies
Oh,
if you
excellent.
want to take a look
That'd
at
be
them. It's
great to
quite an
take a peek at.
attractive-looking building, I
Really
think. I
nice,
think you'll
yeah.
be very happy with
Okay.
it. As long as the cost comes in
Yeah.
reasonable, but,
It looks very nice.
Really nice? Oh,
Yes,
good.
yeah,
And
very
obviously the
attractive.
Chiefs love it, I would assume. Yeah.
so if they have any more meetings where they're gonna be presenting information on that, if you can
Yeah.
try to make it, this one would be hard, because it was
Yeah.
8 o'clock in the morning, so.
Great, good.
But it went on for about 4 hours. I think.
We started at about 7:15, and we finished just before noon.
Yeah.
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 And that was the day of the storm, so it was
Oh.
just a little bit of chaos trying to get everybody in and out.
So Tuesday then, yeah. Oh, wow, okay, good. Well, that's great. It's good to hear that that's going along.
Yeah, and
So
the chiefs
well.
are very happy with the progress on it. I think they're.
Yeah, the
very-
architects have been great to work with.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, it seems like, well, it's like anything else, the more you do it, the better you get at it. I mean, this seems, the process seems to be going a lot more, from my perspective, smoother with this building versus the garage. But, I think just because they've kind of gotten into a groove and they kind of know the steps. Well, we've had a
Yeah.
lot of preliminary stuff with the garage too over the last couple of years, right?
Right.
We've had a lot of talking about it.
And the
what people
building
want.
committee's been stable. I mean, they've had a good
Yes.
base of membership that's been
Yeah.
on there for a while. And
Yeah, so it really works out
And
good. Yeah.
particularly with Tim Bonfatti, who was the chairman of the school building committee. So he's been through several school projects
Yeah.
in addition to this. And then you've got 2 architects, plus
Yeah,
Tim's a project manager. And
they're getting
And
really good at this.
Lou's been through it
What's
on
the
the,
timeline, Mike? Will there be a public showing so the townspeople get to see, and do we
Yes.
have a timeline? Because you want some kind of a,
I think
something for town meeting.
they're hoping to bring it to the Springtown meeting to get the funding to go
Yeah.
to construction.
So then I
So
would
they have a
imagine
bunch of
next
meetings.
month or so, there'd be
We'll start.
something for the public to,
I think
Yes.
probably in late January, early February would be.
Kind of work through the
good.
spring, yeah.
We have a meeting on January 7th. There'll be another round of schematics, and then we'll start to get into the actual design drawings that can be issued publicly.
Oh, great, excellent. Oh, that's very exciting. That's good. Yeah,
January
we're doing
7th,
really
well, that's the day of the election. Okay.
Busy day.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, that's excellent. That's great. I'm glad they're working out so well. Good, all right.
And one other thing, we did get a couple of calls or emails about, with the snowplow, which you always get, but I just wanted to bring to people's attention, and one or two of them was about elderly people having problems with the snow removal and that, so if anyone is, if people could kind of keep an eye if they have any elderly or infirm neighbors who might need some help,
That's
if
a
they
very
could
good idea.
check on them and keep an eye, it might be helpful.
Just, and along that line too, if people could, if they have a fire hydrant in front of their house or on their property,
Dig it
they
out.
could help the town out a lot if they would dig that out.
Fire hydrant or
One,
a
it's
kit,
for their own safety
Yes.
and that of the neighborhood, but if we got a lot of snow like that, and we had to have our firemen out trying to find and dig that out, if everybody adopted the fire hydrant that's in front of their house, we wouldn't have a problem.
Yeah.
So any help that the townspeople can give of shoveling that fire hydrant out would be a great benefit to
Yeah.
themselves and the town.
and the other thing, particularly this week with the warmer weather coming along, is catch basins.
Catch base,
We
yes.
have
get
something
away
like
from the flooding.
1,500 pairs of catch basins or something around town, so
Yeah, so they get
if
it.
they could, if they don't have a fire hydrant in front of their house, but they have a catch basin, if they could shovel
Exactly.
that out. I know I have my catch basin down the street a little bit that I shovel out. And it's
Good
always
idea.
kind of depressing when you shovel it out and the plow comes by and plows it back in again.
Yeah.
But it's very helpful in draining the water off when you do start to get a thaw.
Yeah. Good, excellent. All right, good, thank you.
Production support provided by Medfield.tv. Access to our community.